Okay, yeah, now, dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm Peter Fri from the Center for Energy Research, Budapest, Hungary, and I welcome you to the first session. And I'm waiting very much these presentations because they sound very interesting for me. I think I will learn very much from it. So, Antonio?
Yes, I'm Augusto Giussani from VFS, and I think we can invite the first speaker. So the first speaker is Jelena Jankovic. I hope I said it correctly. And she will talk about regulating radon exposure in Europe. Please remember that you have 15 minutes for your presentation and we have 5 minutes for discussion. And as Warren already said, the people who are attending online can write their questions in the chat so we can have also the question from online. Please.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction. I would like to thank the organizers for invitation to give a small presentation on regulating radon exposure in Europe. I'm coming from the Slovenia Nuclear Safety Administration, and on behalf of the Slovenian regulatory body, I would like to welcome you, dear colleagues and friends. I see that organizers arrange very nice weather. It is raining all the time, so we can be here and listen to presentations. So let's start. After a short introduction, I would like to say a few words about European legislation, and then in particular, I would like to tackle how to implement Council directive, what are the issues. This is, of course, European BSS, and at the end, of course, I would tackle challenges and conclusions are going to be given. So radon is actually a health issue in Europe. We should not actually forget that. And the problem occurred already in 16th century, when it was very clear that mining was a problem. Workers were dying, young guys went to mines, and actually it was obvious that people actually died at the age of 30, 40, and so on. And it was called Yachmino miner disease, or other titles are also used for this disease. So it was clear for 400 centuries that there are serious problems. And then, of course, if you look further, we can find out that, of course, we have discovery of radium. And then, of course, in 1988, radon has been classified as a human carcinogen material. So what is the problem with radon? Well, in Europe, we have around 20,000 people who are dying because of that. So this is very, very clear. And there are estimates percentage of deaths related to radon, lung cancer, and so on. So the numbers are substantial. I have to say this is very important to stress. Of course, we have problem when we are talking about radon. We are not talking about radon as such. We are talking about also daughters. Now, radon is a problem because we actually live inside. We actually change our lifestyle inside. Of course, miners are exposed in mines, but majority of us would be 200 years ago living outside, so radon would not be such a big problem. But now we are living inside, and of course, radon accumulates inside. The origin of radon is very clear in houses. We have soil, water, building materials, and from here we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to control? Are we going to control soil? So geology, are we going to control water, or are we going to control building materials? We have to decide what are we going to control as regulators. And then, of course, we can say, okay, we are not going to control the source, but we are going to control radon, which is there. So we are trying to control gas, basically. Of course, controlling gas, it's an issue. So it's possible we have to control influence of soil, water, and building materials, or all of them. Now, regarding Europe, we are in very different positions. Some countries have problems with this, some countries not. For example, in the Netherlands, there is no big problem with radon. In some countries, the problem is very big. For example, in Norway, we know the problem is very, very weak. And in some countries, we have very advanced programs. In others, we are at the beginning, basically. Now, not only local differences exist, but people have different attitude to smoking, and we know that smoking is a contributing factor, and lifestyle, as already mentioned, of course, it's a big change in last 100 years. We would like to save energy, so we are closing our homes, and that means radon can be accumulated even further. So problem with radon is not somewhere in the vacuum. We have to look to the radon as such in all areas where we can actually destroy the radiation protection, which is actually there. Because if we are outside, usually we don't have problem with radon. So regarding Slovenia, I have to say that we have a very, very big journey. And every country actually went through this journey. I see that when I download yesterday my presentation on the server, some changes occurred, so I apologize for that. Probably I should use PDF instead of PowerPoint, but I think I can still give the presentation as it is. So the first idea somehow occurred in Slovenia in 1972, so 50 years ago, and it was related to radon in uranium mine. So there is a long journey how long actually we are controlling radon in Slovenia, and we of course moved then to workplaces, to schools and kindergartens, and now we have European BSS. Now here I have some photos how this is actually done in Postojna cave. It's a beautiful tourist cave, and here at some places there were really very high concentration of radon, 35,000 becquerel per cubic meter, and these photos were given by Janja Vaupotić, one of the main somehow senior expert in Slovenia related to radon. The measurements were done all over Slovenia, and here we have some photos from the ground. Now, when we are going to regulate radon, we have to mention that everything is linked to European BSS, which started in 1957 when Euratom Treaty was established. So years ago, there was an idea that there should be a harmonized standard how we are regulating risk related to radiation. After 2 years, so in 1959, first BSS was published and so on. So European BSS is all the time, you know, something what we would like to, or something what we would like to update, upgrade, and so on. And of course, this is based on scientific basis. What are the challenges? Well, as I mentioned, in 1988, several European countries noted that basically radon is carcinogen. So let's start with the dose control policy. So decades ago, the problem already was known. European Commission published recommendations, and of course, later on, these recommendations were updated, and Council Directive was also published, requiring identification of working activities. So we are focusing on workers. Well, but we have to see that a huge change happened in 2005, because scientists from UK, led by Dr. Darby, find out that we don't really understand risk related to radon. So if there is a concentration in dwelling above 100 becquerel per cubic meter, there is a substantial, clear idea that it's a problem. So 20 years ago, we found this, and where we are today. So it was also mentioned already that smokers are problematic, because the risk associated to smokers is about 25 times higher. So it's very clear that we have to do something, and radon action plan is required. The radon action plan, well, it's very clear. We are talking about indoor radon. So indoor radon, and of course we are protecting workers and general public. And this is controlled as an existing exposure situation. It means we don't have those limits. We have only reference levels of about 300 becquerel per cubic meter. This is a requirement. Of course, radon action plan in each country is a long commitment. It can take decades that we are going to fix this problem, and we still don't understand a lot of things related to radon. Well, what is in this plan? I won't go through. I would just mention that, of course, we have to measure. We have to find areas where radon is a problem, and we have to set rules. And with setting rules, it means that we have to look to the national circumstances. I would like to emphasize that I was impressed when I was in Poland as a part of the IAEA team, that in Poland they recruited 300 health workers who are now specialists to answer to any question related to radon. So in Poland, in some parts of Poland, radon is a problem, so they find out that there should be a huge campaign. There should be people who are educated to answer that there is a problem with radon, and they, as I mentioned, they actually recruited 300 health workers to do this. And this was considered to be good performance according to the IAEA standards. Now, what else European Union is doing? Well, actually, technical recommendation for monitoring was published with the help of Eurados. Basically, Eurados drafted this. And of course, we have another publication which is talking about radon in workplaces. This was drafted by the Working Party for Natural Sources of Article 31 group of experts. And it was a very nice work to prepare this. I was involved in this work. The idea is actually that we give some, I would say, not really recommendations, but some ideas how to implement basic safety standards, requirements in our everyday work. Now, the basic idea in this document is that we have a very clear flow chart. A clear flow chart, it is on the left side, but here I would just like to explain that, of course, first we have to define which workplaces are problematic, because we are not measuring in every workplace. We are actually looking to the scientific data where it's worth to start, okay? So sometimes it's clear from the geology, sometimes it's clear from other sources, but this is where we start. So we measure. So all of you who are measuring, this is actually really the first step, and we analyze data. Then if we have more than 300 becquerel per cubic meter, what do? We don't jump to the assessment of the dose. No, we remediate, and we can do this once, twice, 3 times, and so on. And if it cannot go below 300 becquerel per cubic meter, then we start to assess the dose. Now, it's very important to stress that 300 becquerel per cubic meter is also requirement. It means we optimize above, and we first do this, and then we optimize below. This is very important. Please pay attention that UK scientists find out we have a problem already with 100 becquerel per cubic meter. And here we are talking about 300 becquerel per cubic meter. So if it's possible to go below 300 becquerel per cubic meter, please do so. Do so using justification. So please don't forget that we have to optimize also below 300 becquerel per cubic meter. Now, but if we cannot go below 300 becquerel per cubic meter, then we have to go to the assessment. And only at this point, we try to find out those conversion factors. Only at this point. And it is quite reasonable to believe that for majority of workplaces, we are not going to calculate doses whatsoever. The doses are going to be calculated only if we cannot remediate, because the main issue is to do the job on site, to go below 300 becquerel per cubic meter. So when we do those assessments, if we can go below 6 millisievert per year, we actually try to control this workplace, though that is not jumping above. But of course, if it's above, we are controlling this as a very normal plant exposure situation. With those limits, we might have radiation protection officer, we should educate people, etc. So this is the idea of this radiation protection document 193. Well, it's a challenging issue when we are going to assess doses. I know that there will be a presentation on the assessment of doses, but it's very clear that the Article 31 group of experts advised European Commission to recommend, please use new dose conversion factors. And this was published in June 2023, and it's it was published by opinion was published in June 2023, and recommendations was published. So we are not now discussing to use new or not new. It's very clear, it's recommended, please use new science. We cannot be happy with these conversion factors, but we should use them. Regarding dwellings, the situation is completely different. Because in dwellings, actually, we would like to have concentrations below 300 becquerel per cubic meter, but European Commission directive actually is much less strict, because we have to justify what we are doing in our dwellings. So it's important to encourage people to measure. It's important that people know how to protect themselves if there is a problem, how to remediate. And this should be done on the local and national level. Why I'm mentioning here local levels? Because around 30 years ago, I was a student, and two instructors from the United States came to Slovenia and tried to show us how it's easy to remediate one house at the karst. And I was as a participant, and we all observed that actually in the United States, they have a methodology which works for the houses in the United States. Because the construction of the house, how actually the air is going from soil to the house, etc., is completely different if you have a typical American house, wooden, etc., or you have a 300-year-old house at the karst. So this local approach is really very, very important. So I would just like to end. Despite harmonization in European Union, there are differences. There are big differences between countries, so we cannot just copy-paste our approaches. There are several groups working on this, and it's a good idea that we join our effort. And as I said, radon as a health issue is not in the vacuum. We have to link our strategy related to radon with the strategy how to prevent smoking, because we know that the best idea is to say somebody who is at risk due to radon, please don't smoke. This is the first start. And then we continue. And it's also very important that we are looking how energy saving programs are conducted in our countries, because everyone would like to have a passive house, etc., etc. And with all these novelties, the situation might be regarding radon might be very, very different. Of course, after COVID, a lot of us are working from home, so our homes are also now workplaces. And there should be a clear message that if our home is now workplaces, our home is a workplace, now we have to use European Union requirements for the workplace. Because as I said, situation for dwellings is completely different. So at the end, I would just like to say that we are at the beginning of understanding radon. I showed few publications which were published just a year, two ago. And that means that we are at the beginning of a big journey. And I'm very happy to learn a lot from Radonorum. They are wonderful themes. I'm looking forward to the presentation, for example, related to embryos and fetus, etc. So I wish you a very successful meeting. Thank you very much. And once again, I apologize for presentation. I should use PDF probably. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elena. Very, very interesting presentation. So are there questions from the floor? I don't see any questions from here. Yes.
There is one online. So Francisco,
Yeah.
would you like to ask, because you have a hand up?
Yeah, Thank you very much, Helena, for this really comprehensive presentation, and at the same time giving very, very clear key messages that I think which are very useful for all of us. Let me just to reinforce one of the messages that you gave, which is related to radon in dwellings. Unfortunately, for many reasons, the present regulation, the European BFSS, is mainly addressing radon in workplaces, as you clearly describes. But the actual radon exposure is much larger in dwellings, about 5 to 6 times on average bigger in dwellings than in workplaces. For both the time spent in dwellings and the high values in night compared with daytime working hours. So I think that we have to really try to focus in some way and to find the way how this can be properly addressed, considering that the recommendatory approach used in many of the European countries seems, after a long experience, not to be very effective. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate a short comment about this comment. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Francisco, very much. If I can make a comment, that now with new dose conversion factors, we actually find out that some people actually are living in houses with, I don't know, 70 millisievert per year. So basically, those conversion factors are actually changing the cake which we have. What is the exposure, from which sources exposure is actually, which part of the cake of effective dose is actually dedicated to radon. So we have now really serious problems in dwellings and also in workplaces, because it's very, very clear that if somebody had dose, let's say 18 millisievert per year before, and now with the dose conversion factor, it can be quickly after 20. And this is a serious problem we have to address. But I fully agree with Francesco that we should look to dwellings, because we are not going to change our lives and go outside, probably.
There is
Thank
a
you.
question from the audience.
Yes. Yes, do we hear each other? Okay, so thank you for this, and thank you also for pointing out that radon is not only the technical problem, but it's also socio-technical and also political, actually, because the reference levels, the subventions and so on, they are societal, socio-political, actually. Radon norm has been extremely active in Slovenia. We produce the full report on as a part of the European Radon Behavior Atlas, a huge report how people behave, how people perceive, what motivates people about the testing and mitigating. And the other task that we were also really active in Slovenia is citizen science projects, Radon norm citizen science projects. I'm curious whether you know about these activities and whether these activities had some kind of impact on your, can you implement something what these activities produced? So the report and also citizen science. What is your opinion about this?
Yeah. Thank you very much. What I wanted to basically stress is that every country has a long journey. And now at 2024, we have a new science, we have new approaches, and we have also a little bit, I would say, different population, which we have to tackle. And I fully support that when we are talking about radon, we have to talk about real problems, about real dwellings, about real workplaces. This is not a theory. This actually tackles everyone who is exposed, who has a house, etc. So I would encourage every country to continue with I would say social science when dealing with radon, because people at the end of the day, they have to behave, they have to decide. And I believe that new generation has completely another approach as it was 20, 30 years ago. We actually are not trying to somehow be authoritative, but to advise and to give, I would say, possibility that people decide by themselves what is the best for them. Thank you. I did, yeah. I did. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much again. We have to move on with the program. So
Thank you.
very interesting presentation. And our next speaker is